Tonight,
Attorney General Ken Paxton is acquitted.
Hunter Biden indicted for gun charges.
Texas beats Alabama 34-24.
North Korea and Russia weapons exchange.
And students without housing in West Campus.
You're watching Texas News Primetime.
Good evening, I'm Paisley Porter.
And I'm Nicholas Pantaleoni. Our first story tonight. Ken Paxton was cleared to return to his duties as Texas Attorney General after being acquitted of his impeachment charges on September 16th. Paxton's accusations include corruption, bribery, and misconduct. Paxton was impeached on allegations of improper use of the power of his office to protect real estate developer Nate Paul. Paul has donated thousands of dollars to Paxton's campaign and has also faced a disciplinary proceeding relating to his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Following the acquittal, Governor Greg Abbott quickly welcomed Paxton back to office. Abbott expressed his excitement for Paxton's victory, saying, quote, "Paxton has done an outstanding job representing Texas, especially pushing back against the Biden administration." Former President Donald Trump took to social media with similar sentiments, exclaiming, quote, "The Ken Paxton victory is so big. Wow." On the other hand, Democratic State Senator Nathan Johnson expressed his disappointment. Senator Johnson recalled the point at which the deliberation collapsed and it became evident Paxton would not be convicted. Johnson said that the wrong result was reached due to, quote, "political pressures." According to the Texas Politics Project's August poll, prior to the trial, 47% of Texas voters believe Paxton's investigations were based on facts, 28% on politics, and 25% had no opinion. Furthermore, 48% of Republicans believe Paxton's investigations were based on politics, in contrast with 10% of Democrats. Lean Republicans and strong Republicans believe Ken Paxton's impeachment was justified, as opposed to not very strong Republicans who believe the impeachment was not justified.
The Undergraduate Architecture Student Council recently sent a letter to the Austin City Council regarding windowless apartments in West Campus. This past Thursday, the Austin City Council acted on this issue. Reporters Ariba Barmel and Joseph Sweeney spoke to students and a professor involved with the initiative.
Our main goal is to finally let Austin City Council know that this cannot just go unmentioned.
On September 1st, the Undergraduate Architecture Student Council sent a letter to City Council and Mayor Kirk Watson with the goal of getting city codes changed to require windows in newly built sleeping areas.
We targeted Councilman Zoe Quadri because he was recently elected. He represents West Campus and UT, and also his platform was based on the housing crisis in Austin and uplifting marginalized voices.
UT Austin alum Rush Bosley, who wrote his Plan 2 honors thesis on this issue, found students who don't have windows have poorer physical and mental health compared to their peers.
I found that in every single category measured, whether that was sleep, ability to form connections outside of class, the ability to feel confident in yourself, the ability to feel that you're in control of your physical health. A lot of those measures were diminished in students who lived in windowless rooms.
Bosley spent his fall 2020 semester in a windowless room, prompting him to look into the issue and leading to his Plan 2 thesis.
The entirety of my sophomore year in my apartment, I pretty much woke up in darkness and then got on my computer and went back to bed every single day, which was really kind of an awful cycle.
UASC is working with Professor Juan Miro. In addition to the student letter, which received 762 signatures as of September 1st, according to an Instagram post by UASC, faculty also sent a separate letter regarding this issue to the City Council last year.
The former mayor and former council completely ignored the letter and the request and the article. There was a new council that came, and now we have a council member that is responsible for the West Campus area, and he's interested in doing something about it.
On Thursday, the Austin City Council passed a resolution directing the city staff to begin drafting an amendment requiring access to natural light in all sleeping areas in new buildings. This amendment will be voted on at a later date.
However, we also need to strike a balance between affordability and quality of life. Natural light should be a necessity and not a luxury.
For TSTV News, this is Ariba Barmel.
Joining us now, we have politics reporter Ariba Barmel.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. How common are these windowless rooms?
Yeah, so Rouge actually spoke about how this has become a baseline in West Campus, and a lot of students are actually having to pay a premium to have a window at all.
I know personally that I'm paying for a premium to have a window right now. In the past, I've had a room without a window, and it really does impact your mental health. So I can't imagine how many other students are also feeling the toll that windowless rooms have. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure many students can relate to the struggle of not having a window. UT President Jay Hartzell has announced the demolition of the Irwin Center, formerly the basketball stadium for the Texas Longhorns. The Irwin Center was first built in 1977, but has remained unused since the opening of the Moody Center in April of 2022. Following the demolition of the Irwin Center, UT's Dell Medical School is set to expand in its place. The project started in June of 2023 and is anticipated to be finished by October 2024. The project is estimated to cost $25 million. UT Cockrell School of Engineering launched a partnership with K. Bailey Hutchinson Energy Center to study alternative energy sources that will make electrical power more affordable and cleaner. With the addition of the Cockrell School, the partnership plans to create programs to facilitate these new discoveries and provide students additional opportunities to participate in energy technology curriculum and seek professional development through symposiums and internships. Apple announced the new iPhone 15, which comes out this Friday. The new iPhone will include a USB-C charging port to reduce thousands of metric tons in e-waste. Current Apple users will need to purchase an additional charger to be compatible with the new version. The new port is predicted to improve charging and data transfer, specifically for an iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max.
In this first month of school, University Democrats hosted prominent Democratic leaders from the Austin community to speak to students about issues facing the UT community. Primetime attended 2 of their events and had the opportunity to speak one-on-one with these figures. We asked Austin Mayor Kirk Watson about the housing shortage. Here's what he had to say.
The approach that had been taken prior to my getting into office was one that made it an all-or-nothing situation. Code Next is what it was called. We're making more progress by moving along and making changes as we go along. Many of the things you heard me talk about, and I didn't cover everything in there, but I would argue that we've done more to get us moving on affordable housing in the past 7.5 months than maybe occurred in the past decade by taking this approach.
We also had the chance to ask U.S. Representative Lloyd Doggett about the state legislature's new ban on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Let's take a listen.
I joined with students in support of DEI, but against Senate Bill 17 in urging the legislature not to take the action that it took. I'm going to continue to meet with students and with some faculty members to find out all the things we could do. I've raised this with the United States Department of Education. I think there are some provisions that could be included in federal grants that would limit the damage being done by the anti-DEI focus.
So, Rue, I hear Amir Watson came to UT recently. Can you tell us about his visit?
Yes, so as we mentioned, he came to speak at one of the University Democrats meetings. He did a quick little Q&A session, and then he talked to students about climate change, affordable housing, and public transportation.
Do you think these leaders will actually be able to make a difference?
Given congressional grid and the influence of conservative state legislator wheels over the liberal city of Austin, it's not likely that much will be achieved in the near future without executive action.
Oh, now to our Primetime Nation correspondent, Hope Vanderberg. Hope, what's going on in the nation?
Yes, so Hurricane Lee made landfall Saturday in the New England and Maritime Canada regions in the form of a post-tropical cyclone, according to the Associated Press. The storm has since brought damaging winds, widespread flooding, water transportation disruption, and power outages. So far, 1 death has been reported in Maine after a tree limb fell on the victim's car. Search efforts are underway for a man who went missing Wednesday in California's Kings Canyon National Park. 65-year-old Paul Benson was reported missing after not returning from his hike near Ranger Lake. Hikers who may have information regarding Benson are being asked to contact the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks dispatch. Hunter Biden was indicted Thursday on the basis of federal gun charges and is being held responsible for lying about his cocaine addiction when purchasing a firearm back in 2018. This comes after a failed plea deal that would have avoided a criminal trial for Biden. Biden falsely stated he was not addicted to drugs on required federal records for gun purchases. He allegedly had this said gun in his possession for 11 days, according to the Associated Press. His 3 charges are punishable by up to 25 years in prison.
Thank you for joining us, Hope. We'll be right back after the break.
Welcome back. Now on to a story prevalent to many West Campus renters, the issue of unfulfilled leasing promises leaving students without housing. Reporters Sophia Kurtz and Angie Santos spoke to students about the predicament. What is the move-in status for these buildings?
So Rise is expected to move in around September 29, and Rambler move-ins were able to move in the weekend
These
after.
are the Rise and Rambler apartment complexes located on Wasey Street and Seton Avenue, respectively. They were designed to accommodate university students in the Austin area. Both high-rises boast amenities such as gyms, common areas, and pools, proving to be an attractive housing option to students. However, students who signed leases at these complexes were faced with a predicament. When they committed to living at these apartments, they were still under construction, and by the time classes began for the fall 2023 semester at UT Austin, neither Rise nor Rambler were ready for occupancy. Though neither complex were available for comment on this matter, their residents were. Here's what they had to say.
Was I a bit hesitant to signing to Rambler since it hadn't been developed? A little bit. The floor plan was just really attractive. I'll be living alone this year as a senior, and so I was just really excited. It's 1 bedroom. I'm just excited to live by myself, and I was just really manifesting that it wouldn't happen. But, you know, this is what happened.
Yeah, I was a bit hesitant when signing to Rise, but they assured us that it would be completed by the time move-in happened, so I figured it would be completed.
So the reason why we signed was, one, we kind of got in a little bit early, so the prices weren't too bad, especially for a new building. The other thing is that when we signed, I asked them if they were to not be ready, like what would happen, and of course they were like, no, we'll be ready. But you know, they're not now. But they did say that
we could pay our rent and live in a hotel and receive $50 a day for every day that move-in was delayed. Or
figure out housing for yourself. You get a $200 gift card every day, and you don't have to pay rent.
I was frustrated, of course, like everybody was. I'm in my sorority, so like I was doing like work week and recruitment, and I was like staying at a friend's apartment, so I was like excited to have my own bed. Once I kind of figured everything out, waters kind of settled. I was kind of just not frustrated, kind of over it.
It felt like super shady. They're sending this out in the middle of the night. Like people are already on planes to get here. It's hard, especially for people out of state, or even just like myself. It was late at night, and when I got the email, I was like, oh my God, like where am I gonna live?
So what is the move-in status for these buildings?
So Rise is still expected to move in on September 29, but Rambler residents did get to move in the weekend afterwards. So we're still waiting on Rise, but Rambler residents were now able to move in.
Do you know of any future plans for future buildings in West Campus?
Yes, LV Collective, they're the real estate developer that's responsible for construction of other buildings on West Campus, such as Waterloo and Rambler. They recently submitted plans for 2 additional student housing towers.
And now over to our world correspondent, Trent Lamb.
A storm has caused deadly flooding in Libya. Storm Daniel, a strong Mediterranean storm, similar to a tropical cyclone, hit the North African country Sunday. The city of Derna was struck the worst, with 2 dams outside the city collapsing. Floodwaters rushed through the Wadi Derna Valley before crashing through buildings and washing people out to the Mediterranean Sea. The death toll has surged to more than 11,000 in Derna alone, and over 10,000 people are still missing. Brazil began reinstating greenhouse gas commitments made in 2015 under the Paris Agreement. The target goal of 1.2 billion metric tons of CO2 was weakened to 73 million under former President Jair Bolsonaro. Over half of the emissions stem from deforestation in the Amazon rainforest, which Bolsonaro expanded. Under President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, deforestation has been reduced by 48%. A meeting between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin sparked concerns over weapon transfer deals. Kim met with Putin in Russia Tuesday, touring the country and key military sites over the course of 6 days. Foreign officials believe the meeting could provide Russia with North Korean munitions for the ongoing war in Ukraine in exchange for Russian weapons technology. Kim stated the country would offer, quote, full and unconditional support, end quote, towards Russian security threats. Putin ended the trip by accepting an invitation to North Korea in the future.
2 weeks ago, UT beat Alabama at the inaugural All-State Crossbar Classic. Let's take a look at some UT student reactions to the win.
Last Saturday, September 9th, UT fans flooded West Campus and the UT Fountain celebrating the Longhorns' football victory over the University of Alabama. Here's what some UT fans had to say about the game.
Oh, we're smoking on the Bama pack. What do you mean? The game was amazing. First quarter, first half. Bama who? Quinn. Bama who? All I gotta say is we did our job. You know, we did what we had to do. We came out with the W. Steve Stark. Get praise to my boy Steve Stark. My boy Quinn. Ewers. We go to school with Quinn Ewers. AD. We're all his best friends. Mitchell. What I have to say to Alabama is, you know, with your cousins. They're a great competitor. I'm glad that we got to compete against a great school. We got to compete against a great school. Alabama, if they kiss their cousin with that mouth. Can you read? Sound it out. Sound it out. Dub. 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 Disrespectfully bang. Alabama. We're in the SEC now, baby. Let's go.
We'll be right back after the break. There's no question.
Welcome back. We are now joined by sports correspondent Tommy Yarish. Tommy, lots going on this weekend in the world of sports, especially some excitement here on campus. I was lucky to be a part of some of the festivities. How about you?
Yeah, so obviously a big win for Texas in Tuscaloosa last week against Alabama, but this week hosting Wyoming. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights from Saturday night. Texas, the number 4 team in the country. Everything's going great, right? Oh, wait, what's this? A 62-yard touchdown from Wyoming? On the 4th play of the game, Harrison Whaley makes it 7-0 early. Uh-oh, and the Longhorns in trouble. We're going to fast forward now to the second quarter on the goal line. Hey, look at Byron Murphy there in the middle. A big man touchdown. I see you, Steve Sarkisian. 6'1", 308-pound defensive tackle Byron Murphy scores the opening touchdown for the Horns. DeSoto, Texas, stand up. Now moving into the 4th quarter. It was tied 10-10 coming into this quarter. Texas looking to separate, and that's the play that you want to see. Xavier Worthy shot out of a cannon along the far side. Finally, a screen pass working in this one for Texas. 44 yards out. Worthy makes it 17-10. Texas going to keep this going. A 61-yard run from Jonathan Brooks sets up this 5-yard score from Quinn Ewers, who can't find anything on the rollout to the right and just muscles his way into the end zone. Flex on him, young man. 24-10 Texas, and then finally the nail in the coffin. A young quarterback in the game for Wyoming, Evan Spoda in place of Andrew Peasley, who was out with an undisclosed injury, and Jaron Thompson reads the route perfectly and jumps it to house it. 31-10 Texas, your final score over Wyoming. The Longhorns move to 3-0 for the first time since 2012.
So, before we talk about Wyoming, how about Texas's win over Alabama, 34-24? What stood out to you about that victory?
Well, obviously, when you beat Alabama, it's definitely going to stand out, right? And you maybe look ahead a little bit in that next game. Well, it means a lot for Texas, first of all. First time that Alabama's lost at home since 2019, and that 10-point victory was the largest loss that Nick Saban has had during his tenure as head coach at Alabama. So, really big game for Steve Sarkisian, who has needed that marquee victory so far in these 3 years at Texas. He finally gets it on the road against his former head coach in a spot where he was very adamant about Nick Saban giving him the opportunity to come back and be a head coach at this level. So big win for Steve Sarkisian and big win for the Horns on the road.
Okay, now let's talk about Wyoming. Texas looked a little flat through the first 3 quarters. What changed about the fourth to propel Texas to that win?
Yeah, obviously very flat through the first 3 quarters, which is concerning for this offense that has so much talent around the roster. But, you know, as I mentioned, after you win a big game against Alabama, you maybe think a little bit less in that upcoming week and, you know, think a little bit too much of yourself. Well, they finally woke up in that fourth quarter. Steve Sarkisian electing to run the ball a little bit more. He gave it to Jonathan Brooks more with Cedric Baxter out. We'll see if he comes back this week against Baylor. But with Baxter being really the bell cow of this offense, especially in the run game, he goes for over 100 yards. The first time that a Texas running back has done that this season. And that, I think, was the difference maker. We saw the screen pass to Xavier Worthy in those highlights. That obviously had a big part in it. And then the defense just continuing to do what they've done best. 5 interceptions on the season. That's tied for 11th in the country right now. Jaron Thompson has played phenomenal through these first 3 weeks of ball. And you want to see your veteran players start stepping up there. He has done just that.
The Longhorns now begin their final march through the Big 12 with a night game on Saturday in Waco. What are the expectations for the team heading into this conference play?
Yeah, obviously a big year now that it's their final year in the Big 12 Conference. They moved to the SEC in 2024. I think, honestly, the expectations are a Big 12 championship, and if you fall short of those expectations, you might consider this season a little bit of a failure. Do you think about the talent that this Texas roster has? Everybody says in the past, oh, Texas has always had all the talent, they've just never been able to put it together. I don't think that's necessarily true. This time, they've got the culture together. Year 3 under Steve Sarkisian. Quinn Ewers knows the system. They have an incredible defense, probably the best defense this Texas has had in the past decade at least. There's no excuse, I believe, this season that Texas should not win a Big 12 championship, and if they do that, then they're in serious contention for a college football playoff spot and maybe a national championship. But you are going to want to see some more consistency on offense if you want to see the Horns compete against the Georgias, the Michigans, who they would have to play if they even want to sniff a national title.
All right, well, I'm excited to see how the season plays out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
We'll be right back after the break.
Welcome back. Joining us is Sophia Kurtz. How are you doing today, Sophia?
Well, how are you, Nick?
So, Sophia, I heard there was a pretty big concert here in Austin last night. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I would love to. So last night, Lana Del Rey performed at the Germania Insurance Amphitheater. Here's everything you need to know about the event. Fans camped outside the venue for hours, waiting for the box office to open at 5 p.m. in hopes of buying the limited available tickets at face value. Ticket takers were found taking bribes of $125, letting desperate fans into the venues. Nikki Lane opened for Lana Del Rey. She sung a cover of Creep by Radiohead. And Lana Del Rey went down to the pit barricade during the song Ultraviolence, where she signed items, took pictures, and spoke to fans. The concert ended at 11 p.m. with the final song being Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? Nick, what is your favorite Lana Del Rey song?
Oh, well, I have to go with the classic Summertime Sadness. You know,
amazing.
Yeah, what about you? What's your favorite Lana Del Rey song?
Probably Chemtrails Over the Country Club.
Really?
Yeah, like, you know, I'm in the wind, he's in the water.
Absolutely.
In more entertainment news, the 75th Emmy Awards have been pushed back 4 months to the 15th of January due to the SAG-AFTRA strike. This was the first time the awards have been pushed back since 2001 following the 9/11 attacks. Even then, the show was only pushed back 7 weeks. Emmy nominations were announced less than 48 hours before the actors and writers officially went on strike. Not the first awards show to be affected by the strike, the Tony Awards held this summer we still presented, but in a reworked format, showing a script with less banter than usual. Do you watch the Emmys?
I did not get around to it this year. I'm after, especially considering oh, what's so funny about that? Considering all just the...
It's being pushed back.
Well,
So
I know it's being pushed back, but... Yeah, well...
Have you ever watched the Emmys? Moving on. So on September 18th, Drew Barrymore. We love Drew Barrymore. I love Drew Barrymore.
They're cool, I guess, yeah.
SZA did write a song about her.
They
I think she heard. Drew Barrymore announced she was preparing to resume her talk show, The Drew Barrymore Show. She received backlash for doing so amidst the SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild of America strike. The strike has been going on since May, with both writers and actors demanding better wages alongside various other protections, including protections from their jobs being displaced by artificial intelligence. On Sunday, she released a statement on Instagram that she will be pausing the show's return. So, have you guys ever watched The Drew Barrymore Show?
I have not, but I really loved her in The Wedding Singer. She and Adam Sandler are so cute. I ship them. No, I don't.
He's married with kids.
His wife is actually a very wonderful woman. I think that they're the perfect couple, but I love Drew Barrymore. She does no wrong. SZA wrote a song about her.
I mean, apparently she did do wrong. That's what this entertainment is. Nick, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, well, as always, you can follow Texas News Primetime and TSTV News on social media just by searching. Also, you can take us with you on the go by subscribing to our podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Now, go out and change your world.